indeed, I'm very lucky. My talk essentially got written by 3 historic events that happened within days of each other in the last 2 months. Seemingly unrelated, but as you will see, actually all having to do with the story I want to tell you today. The first one was actually a funeral, to be more precise, a reburial. On May 22nd, there was a hero's reburial in Frombork, Poland, of the 16th century astronomer who actually changed the world. He did that literally by replacing the Earth with the Sun in the center of the solar system. And then with this simple-looking act, he actually launched a scientific and technological revolution, which many call the Copernican revolution. Now, that was ironically and very befittingly the way we found his grave. As it was the custom at the time, Copernicus was actually simply buried in an unmarked grave together with 14 others in that cathedral. DNA analysis, one of the hallmarks of the scientific revolution of the last 400 years that he started, was the way we found which set of bones actually belonged to the person who read those astronomical books, which were filled with leftover hair. That was Copernicus' hair. Obviously, not many other people bothered to read these books later on. That match was unambiguous. The DNA matched, and we know that this was indeed Nicholas Copernicus. Now, the connection between biology and DNA and life is very tantalizing when you talk about Copernicus, because even back then, his followers very quickly made the logical step to ask, if the Earth is just a planet, then what about planets around other stars? What about the idea of the plurality of the worlds? About life on other planets? In fact, I'm borrowing here from one of those very popular books at the time. And at the time, people actually answered that question positively, yes. But there was no evidence. And here begin 400 years of frustration, of unfulfilled dreams, the dreams of Galileo, Giordano Bruno, many others, which never led to the answer of those very basic questions which humanity has asked all the time. What is life? What is the origin of life? Are we alone? And that especially happened in the last 10 years, at the end of the 20th century, when the beautiful developments due to molecular biology, understanding the code of life, DNA, all of that seemed to actually put us not closer, but further apart from answering those basic questions. Now, the good news. A lot has happened in the last few years, and let's start with the planets. Let's start with the old Copernican questions. Are there Earths around other stars? And as we already heard, there is a way in which we are trying and now able to answer that question. It's a new telescope. Our team, befittingly, I think, named it after one of those dreamers of the Copernican time, Johannes Kepler. And that telescope's sole purpose is to go out, find the planets that orbit other stars in our galaxy, and tell us how often do planets like our own Earth happen to be out there. The telescope is actually built similarly to the well-known to you Hubble Space Telescope, except it does have an additional lens, a wide field lens, as you would call it as a photographer. And if in the next couple of months you walk out in the early evening and look straight up and place your palm like this, you will actually be looking at the field of the sky where this telescope is searching for planets day and night without any interruption for the next 4 years. The way we do that, actually, is with a method which we call the transit method. It's actually mini eclipses that occur when a planet passes in front of its star. Not all of the planets will be fortuitously oriented for us to be able to do that, but if you have 1 million stars, you'll find enough planets. And as you see on this animation, what Kepler is going to detect is just the dimming of the light from the star. We are not going to see the image of the star and the planet as this. All the stars